Hi there and welcome to my 12th tutorial on Visual C++ 2010 Express Edition, and in this tutorial I will teach you about classes. So first of all, what is class? A class is expanded concept of data structure which holds not only data but also functions or methods, depending on which one you learn first. Nevertheless, the class is written or created in the global scope of your code, which is here or just here, so under or above your main, and this is the global scope. And to create a class you will need the class keyword, like so, and the name of the class, like so. And you open and close curly brackets. Now you don't have to, if you create just this, you don't have to use semicolon. But what I'm going to show you later on, I will need this as I will input another statement in here. So I will actually need semicolon. So it is always better to add this semicolon to not get, errors, some kind of errors. Okay, so this is a class, and the class is set to be private from the beginning when you create it. So everything I put here is private. That means my main or my different functions can use this. So if I want to use, for example, one or another function or method or whatever you want in this class, I have to declare it as a public. So let me just show you the difference. Let's say num1, num2. Yeah, so this is the private variables, but then if I want to have public functions variables, I have to say public colon, and then what's under this public statement is for the external use, so I can use it in class as well as in my different functions like main. Okay, so let me just do one void function, print. Let's say I'll have print function, and I will say num1 equals 10 and cout num1. Cout num1. So nothing really serious at the moment. And this is my class, okay? So I have created my class. It has variables, it has function. Now to use this function, because I can't use variables, which I will show you in a minute, I need to create an object. To create an object, you go to your main or different function and say example, which is the name of my class, and then followed by the object's name, like so. So this is an object now. I have created an object of my class, and I can use certain methods and variables within that class with this object. So to use this object, you have to write the object's name and then dot. It's pretty much similar when you do with the strings. You have a string name, dot, and you have those functions, methods. And this is similar, but you don't get the whole list of the methods because the class, at least class, contains now only 3 things, that is 2 variables and 1 function, as you can see. So nothing really serious. And if let's say I don't know about the scope, I want to use variable and assign this number to it, I can't. As you can see, even if you just hover over it, it will say it's inaccessible. That is because it's private, basically. That's why you can't use this. But I can use the print statement and print function, and it will just print. Well, I can just show you. It will print number 10. So nothing serious at the moment. Pretty simple thing. Nothing to worry about at all. Okay, so this is one thing you can do with the class. Another thing you can do is to create operator of scope. Now, operator of scope is something that transfers values from the object into the class. When later on you can use those values, for example, to calculate or to check different things and stuff in your functions. Because I will actually show you this. Okay, so first of all, I will have to have a function which will take in those values. So void, let's say, and void okay, numbers. I will not think about the name for so long. And int in. So it will take in 2 integer arguments which will then be assigned to those two values. I will assign them later on. Okay, so outside of the class, which is down here, I have to create my operator of scope now. To create operator of scope, you have to use the same, probably the same type. You have your class, you have your function, this one, and the name of the class, like so, example, so void example, then the operator of scope, which is 2 colons, and then this function number, and then you have to declare those variables as well. Okay, so that's how this will look like. Oh, right, my mistake. Okay, so that's how the operator of scope looks like. You have your function here, which will take in the variables I can assign to or numbers I can assign to my object, and then transfer them to those two. I will transfer them to those two because I open it. So number 1 is equal I, and number 2 is equal B. So then those two will be transferred to those. It will, the value will be equal. Okay, so I can now, instead of doing something like this, assigning statement in this function, I can basically just calculate them, and that's it. To make it simpler, I will just change it to integer and return stuff. Return and num1 plus num2. So just to make it simpler. Okay, so that's done, and now the object part. Okay, I have created my object already, so now I have to object dot number and then, well, this is how I assign those values. I just take the what was it? Function. Oh yeah, I just assign those numbers to function, which are just taken in here, and I, which is this variable, this one, I is equal to number 1, for it's B equal to number 2, those two, so I can use them later on. So that's how it works. Okay, so now I can, for example, see out the result. Come on, see out, and just simply object dot and the print statement. Okay, when I run this, you will see the calculation. 6. 2 plus 4, 6. Of course, it's not limited to numbers, like, random numbers you can just give. You can also input variables in here. So you can create variables and, for example, ask user to input some kind of values, and then use the variables to get values for those two, for number 1 and 2. So that's the second way you can use the class. And now I will show you how to create a constructor. A constructor is something different, as it will use class only, and okay, so this is the class name. The class will take 2 parameters of integer type, and instead of doing number, I do class. But this cannot have a type. It's pretty much the same, but the difference is that I have to assign values to the object straight ahead, like so. I have to assign the values straight ahead because the object will not be created. So now, instead of just this is actually better than the operator of scope. If you want to assign values straight ahead, this is the best way to use it. The constructor. This is the constructor. It has no type. You use the class. To get the values. This statement doesn't. Those two statement doesn't change. Those two doesn't have to change as well. But what changes is that when you create an object, you have to input the values straight ahead. Then you don't have to say object dot some kind of function, and it's kind of, well, complicated then. But if you do it like this, it's pretty much simpler, because you already have those values when you created this, and it will print again the same output. I mean, well, different 3 plus 6 now, but the same thing will happen with just shorter code, I would say, like this. So this is a constructor. The other one was the operator of scope. Now this tutorial, I have created a file which is about the classes, and it is much more sufficient than this one. It's much more informative. As I said, the tutorials which I create and videos I create are basically for you to see how this is implemented, and the written tutorials are there for your information. So if you require some more knowledge or some more information, just do visit my webpage and read those tutorials, because they're more informative. I can't just basically input all those information I've written into the video. But that's how the class looks like. You can also have more variables. You can have more. You can even have arrays. You can have more functions. You can also, as I showed you, you can construct objects, print them out. You can do checks. You can do if statements if you want. You're not only, as I said, you can do with the function, with the class. You can do pretty much the same thing you do with the function, but also class includes functions. So it's like another level. You can also do something like this. If well, num1 is more than 5, then return something. So as you can see, it's very valid. You can use this. You can use strings. You can use loops. Everything. That's why the classes are so important in programming. And I think that's the end of this tutorial, because basically, as I said, visit my webpage for more tutorials on C++ and for more informative ones as well, because this is just implementation. I show you. If you want, as I said, more informative, is the written tutorial on my page. Also visit my YouTube channel. If you like those videos, subscribe. I will be great. And I will see you next tutorial then. Bye.